Welcome back to Endurance Icons, where we interview endurance athletes that are crushing it in the world of sport. Today, you have Mark and Jess. How's it going, Mark?
I am wonderful. How are you today?
Fantastic. So it's been a while, 3 or 4 episodes to be exact, since you've heard from us. So we have some exciting things to get you caught up with. But first, there's been a lot going on in the world of endurance sport, Mark.
Yeah.
Let's start with the men world champs. What happened there?
Oh my goodness. We got a new world champion. Sam Laidlow just dominated that race.
Yes, he did.
And so cool that he has all his power data and everything on Strava. He pushed like 330 watts normalized power for that bike leg.
That is bonkers to me.
Insanity. That's like what a lot of the pros push for like 70.3 races. And he's pushing that for an Ironman and then held everybody off. Pretty epic.
It is epic. I wonder what is like, well, I guess he's on Strava, but it's like to get power numbers like that and hold power numbers like that. Like it's just, and then to run off it. Like, what an athlete.
Yeah, he's been doing it for a lot of years. So
True,
everybody thinks he's an overnight sensation, but he's been doing it for a long time. So good on him.
There's very few overnight sensations. It's just a lot of consistent hard work that people don't see.
Truth. But poor Frodo didn't get his win in his last race.
But what a classy last race.
I love that he just stuck it out and like went out there and had the run and high five people. And there's cool videos of him like stopping to cheer on Sam Laidlow or Patrick Lange.
Yeah.
That dude is just all class. I love him.
Yeah. Well, you're just soaking it all in, right? It's so incredible.
Yeah.
Yes.
ITU has been crazy lately too. We had Paris test event where a bunch of people qualified for the Olympics. And then they just had the grand final recently. So that kind of main part of short course wrapped up as well, which the men's race was friggin' nuts. Like there was Hayden Wild and Alex Yee, who we thought were just gonna win everything, but then ended up getting mowed down by the French guys in that race, who could be interesting for Paris next year if they can pull off a similar sort of tactic and leave those guys in a pack behind, and it could be an all French podium potentially. We'll see.
That would be wild.
Yeah, imagine that in Paris, the French go 1, 2, 3.
They would go absolutely wild if that would happen.
Man, the French are on the cusp of something pretty special, I think, right now. And then the women's race, Beth Potter got the win. French lady Cassandra Beaugrand was second, but exciting stuff going on the women's side too. I'm excited for ITU next year with an Olympic year. It's going to be crazy.
Can I just say, I find it so interesting how countries build momentum. So like the Norwegians and suddenly like the French athletes, and just seeing how when you start winning, you keep winning. It's just so fascinating to watch some of these trends that are happening.
Yeah, you've like you said, it's really these momentum times where people are really hot, and hopefully the French didn't peak too early on this, but it's really cool in ITU. Like I think because it's like a team-based sort of one, like these guys were in the race working together to make sure that they kept people away, where like you're not going to see as much of that in like long course racing. So crazy different dynamics in that.
Totally.
Exciting news in Canada. There's a new race coming next year.
Quebec.
Yeah, Quebec City Challenge, like 70.3 distance race. That's swim course. Did you see the maps of it? It looks friggin' wild. Like you essentially swim out and then you go, there's a bunch of docks, and you just go in between the docks and like do a little loop in between each of them. So it's like 1.9K of that. It's going to be very interesting, especially if there's a pro race. Like how tight are these areas, and those corners are going to be nuts.
It would be hilarious to get drone footage of that.
Yeah, it almost looks like a hand. So you go, you start swimming out and there's like docks here, and you just go doop, doop, doop.
They must have had fun planning that out.
Yeah, I think they wanted to keep it in the protected bay and keep it like a good visual one, but crazy. I guess our final kind of piece of news in triathlon recently has been that Lionel Jackson back-to-back battle with some amazing Instagram content of their eat off.
Oh my gosh. It was incredible seeing how much they're putting down.
I know. I love that Jackson got the better of him in both races though, and then
Jack the Snack.
Yeah, and then Tamara won the first race, but then Paula the second race. Neither of them won on the back-to-back. Paula won the one, and then Mika Newt came out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere. He's a damn good athlete, but he got the win in that one too. And then we just had Berlin last weekend. Oh my goodness. Crazy.
It has been such an exciting time just to watch sports.
Yeah,
There's so
like
much happening.
Kipchoge went 2:02, I think like fifth fastest of all time. But the highlight of the day was no doubt that women's world
Oh,
record.
2:11.
Yeah, it took like over 2 minutes off the world record. So crazy.
So
I,
exciting to see.
that's so wild that the women could be under 2:10 pretty soon. Like for a while, that was the men's Olympic standard. Like the women are almost there.
I know.
Holy.
It's a cool time to be alive in endurance. Like it's seeing the things that people are smashing. Like it wasn't too long ago that it was just some of these milestones seemed impossible, and now they're just smashing through them, and it's just
Did
it's
did you see the shoe the girl won in who won the race? So they're these new Adidas prototype shoes that you are $500 and you can only use them for the one race. They're pretty much disposable shoes.
yeah, but if you run times like that on it, like how do I get a pair?
Yeah, exactly. But like there's no doubt you're gonna start to see like age group people like rocking those, but better be the CEOs and doctors or have a good YouTube channel to get Adidas on board for that.
Ooh. Do you
Wow.
want to run Berlin one day?
I would, yeah, I want to run all the majors. I was already considering maybe New York City for next year. Boston cutoff was 5.5 minutes this year, which is pretty wild in
That
terms
was
of
wild.
majors news. I've never seen it that low before.
No.
So now, like men, we're back. Like I remember when I first qualified, you had to run 3:05 for my category. Then they cut it to 3 a few years ago. You would have needed like 2:54:30 to qualify as a man under 35. Ooh,
But like for me, this is exciting.
I love it.
Love that like this is a premier event. It should be hard to get into.
Yeah. And all they're doing is raising the bar. So people gravitate to those like
Absolutely.
milestones. So they know, okay, now I need to run 2:54. People will get better if they do that. So it's like cool that they're raising the bar. I love it.
Totally. I talk about this with my training partners all the time. Like when they crush goals that I'm reaching for, I'm like, great, we just all got better because that's the new standard we all need to beat.
And clearly they need to make it even more competitive. If they didn't allow 11,000 people into this race, maybe the standards need to come down another 5 minutes or 10 minutes even, and people would get them and they would fill out that field in no time. I guarantee it.
Well, I think like the technology is changing to afford people to go faster, and we're learning things about science so much more in terms of like nutrition, sleep, all those things. So we should be getting faster.
Yeah, you would hope so anyways.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, let's okay, great endurance, but let's talk about you for a
Time
moment.
for life updates with Mark and Jess.
But mostly Mark, because Mark, you've done a lot lately. Firstly, let's talk about your bounce back from Tremblant, because I think the last time we talked, we walked through your Tremblant Ironman, which you absolutely crushed. But what was it like to jump back into training knowing that you had an Ironman on the horizon?
Yeah, it actually went really well. I was surprised at my bounce back. Even by like Thursday after the race, like 5 days away, I was already feeling like pretty good. So my bounce back was actually, I was very patient with it because I know like all you're going to do is dig yourself a hole if you try and push back quickly. So I was very much like listening to my body and leaving ranges for workouts. And like if I felt tired, dropping a workout. But like I actually bounced back really quickly and felt good energy, power, and pacing was coming back pretty quick. I still took like the first 2 weeks very easy. But I was very surprised. Like this was the first Ironman I felt like I bounced back physically and systemically really fast, which systemically usually you're pretty broken for a while, but probably like within 10 days to max 2 weeks, I was like good to go again.
I know your Bluetooth wasn't even off right after Tremblant.
Yeah.
I will explain. So I have this thing of when Mark is very present, I joke that his Bluetooth is on. So the more tired he gets in training, I say the patchier his Bluetooth is. So
yeah. Especially after a race. Yeah. The Bluetooth is off.
Yeah. There's no one home. But you didn't suffer from that in any way. So what was your mindset going into Maryland?
This was kind of a weird race. Like I felt positive because I had bounced back pretty quickly and felt like I had good fitness into it, but I didn't have the same, like even the race week leading in and when I was there the days before the race, I didn't have the same, like quite the same fire I did for Tremblant. Like Tremblant, I was so excited and you're like running through the race scenarios in your mind in the days leading in. Maryland, I was just kind of like very neutral about. So that's kind of where my mind was at on that. But like I was optimistic I could have a decent day out there.
So, having not done an Ironman for a full year, I feel a little bit of trepidation with one on the horizon, just knowing how much it's going to hurt. Having done one so recently, was that in the forefront of your mind? Like, were you worried about the pain of it all, or like,
Yeah, it's funny how quickly we forget. Like you saw me right after I finished Tremblant. I'm like, there's no way I'm doing Maryland. I'll just swim, bike, and I won't do the run. And then a day later, I'm like, all right, I think I could probably run. And then 2 days later, I'm like, I'm ready to send it again.
I
So
know.
yeah, you quickly forget about the pain of it. And I knew it was gonna hurt again, but it's like, yeah, I think I wasn't, yeah, I don't know.
No,
That's the best answer I have for that. I wasn't sure.
I will allow that answer. So you get to Maryland, walk us through the race. So I was freaking out. I was at a big work event, so I wasn't able to come watch you. So I was on the tracker and I kept seeing when I thought that you were going to start, there's nothing happening on the tracker. So what happened?
So it was windy the days leading in as well. Even when I did like a shakeout ride and stuff, it was quite windy in the area. And yeah, the winds down by the water were too much that morning. So they had to cut it to 915 meters, which I think is the equivalent to 1,000 yards. We were wondering where they came up with that number. But essentially, they had what was called a stacked tide, where the water current is going one way, the wind's going the other way. So, like, I think it's more so a lot of the weaker swimmers wouldn't be moving in a lot of sections. And even like we did that 900-meter swim, and the like last probably 300 coming back to shore was like very choppy and scary. So like I don't think I would have wanted to do that for 3.8K. So it was definitely the right choice in the end, and still nice to like get a swim to like break things up. And they were rolling like one person every 5 or 10 seconds into the water.
Okay.
So it was actually a pretty peaceful swim. It was kind of funny though. Like I was probably maybe like the 25th or 30th person in the water. And there was a pack of guys that like formed right away in front of me, probably like 10 or 15 guys. And there's not that many guys already in the water. And by the first buoy, I had already bridged and caught this group. And I was just like, what is happening here? So I just like went around and got my own space and found one other guy. But yeah, I dusted like 15 guys in the first like 300 meters. And I was like, oh, I'm right near the front of the race, front of the age group race. There was a pro female and men's race there.
But that must have felt pretty good.
It was motivating to like in the first 300 meters catch 15 people. So you're like, okay, the swim was kind of worth it, I guess.
And then transition in your bike.
Yeah, transition just like Tremblant again. I moved from like fourth or fifth in my age group out of the swim to first just from transition. I don't know what people are doing in there, but like I'm just practiced my transitions and I know how to rip through there, and had the fastest transition again and was first on the bike with a minute or two to spare. So I think that's eventually going to pay off for me in a race when it comes down to like a very close finish. Transitions are going to.
It won't be from transitions.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I was very fast on that one. Nailed another sweet flying mount and was off to the races.
Literally. So, how did the bike go for you?
Yeah, bike was an interesting course, very flat, fast course. So definitely you fly on a course like that. But I pretty much rode another solo 180K. Felt great, pushed good power through probably 140K. And then I was starting to get some like cramping in my adductors and hips. And then it was a lot of headwind in the last bit too. So started to struggle a little bit and bled a fair amount of like speed and got passed by a lot of people at the end of that one. I think it was just, yeah, lack of, maybe it could have been a combo of just a lot of aero time and who knows, maybe some fatigue from Tremblant still, but not really sure what to chalk that one up to exactly.
Well, and headwind is so demoralizing. Like I recently did a training ride where it was just headwind almost the entire way, and it wears on you. So I totally understand.
Yeah, it's like it's dead flat there, so like every bit of wind just blows you around. A lot of crosswind, some tough headwind sections there for sure. That yeah, I was very happy to be done that bike versus Tremblant where I got off and was like, oh, I enjoyed that bike. I would have kept going.
Yeah, because you get breaks. How did this ride compare to Florida?
Florida. Oh, Ironman Florida. It was definitely flatter than Florida. Kind of, yeah, it was there's not a hill on the entire course. Like there's no point where anything changes in the elevation. Zero.
That is why Tyler was so excited about it.
Yeah.
One of our friends.
But yeah, it kind of had similar winds to that Florida day, but you had like, you started with tail and then you had a long section of head and then it was kind of cross coming back and then repeat that again, but then you had to go back to town as the winds were picking up. You got it tail out of town on the way out when the winds were still kind of chill, but then you ate it on the way back to town at the very end. But yeah, solo 180K. But yeah, I still rode like 37.8K an hour, but I was like 39 for most of it. So
Yeah.
definitely bled some time at the end there, where a lot of the guys in my age group had held strong right to the end there and put a lot of time into me at the end there. But I think I was like third off the bike in the end.
Yes, you were. Now, transition it onto the run.
Yeah. Oh, I got off the bike, and because I had that like adductor and hip cramping, I was like running pretty gingerly, if you want to call it, to my run bag, and was like, oh no, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to run here. Like this could be bad. I kind of ran the first 2K, and then it kind of passed, and I was just fine and running pace right away. But I was kind of even late on the bike, getting like a little bit nauseous. I don't know what it was. I used the same nutrition strategy as Tremblant, so could have just been like drinking some salt water or getting jarred around by winds on the bike, or who knows, just an off gut day. It's kind of weird. But yeah, first 14K, I was great. I think I was making up time on second. And then I just like hit the park as you come back after the first loop and just instantly spewed my guts out right in front of Tyler and Clay were running by right at that point, and just the looks on their face of like, oh my
You're
goodness,
like, oh, it's going well.
this guy's a psycho. But yeah, essentially from that point, so like 14 almost till like call it, I actually ran pretty decent for a bit after that, because I was still almost running off of some of that energy. So probably about till halfway I ran pretty good. I was like ran 135 through the half on pace, and then I was like essentially 21 till like 35K where I just had no energy. So I was just trying to get fuel in. And then of course what happens is I bled back to like 5th place, and then all my energy came back in the last 7K like I hadn't even done anything. And I was just able to run the pace again and finish like knowing I probably could have run another like 15K at that pace if I needed to. So missed opportunity, but it is what it is.
How did you manage mindset when you were having gut issues? Because I'm sure that was frustrating.
Yeah, the one thing I've learned in an Ironman is like especially when it's something like fueling, I think when you get dehydration, it's very hard to come back from, because that rehydration takes so long. But I knew it was fuel. So I'm like, right away, I go into like problem solving mode of just like, okay, I need to get on as much fuel as I can. But you've also just puked and your gut hurts. So you're like, oh, I can't really get anything down. So you're like trying Coke or like anything that you can kind of stomach, which was very hard to do. And it was pretty much just Coke I could get down. So you can get large quantities, but you want to keep forging ahead. So it was just like, I was running and I knew like my legs weren't actually charred, but I just like every push off, I felt like I had no energy. So you're just running like 5:45 a K, and you're like, this is so annoying. And then it just clicks for you and you're like, what? Okay, I literally am flying again. So weird. What a weird feeling, but good to know you can come back from it. I just wish like I'd almost somehow been able to chug a bunch of Morton gels and Coke right away, and been able to come back 5K later, because that would have made all the difference. I could have even been competing up higher in that age group there, but that's life, and we've got to come back better next time.
So what were your key learnings from this Ironman?
Yeah, probably not do one 4 weeks apart. I actually felt energy wise pretty good. Like if it wasn't for that gut issue, I don't think like energy or fatigue really would have been my issue, but maybe there were some underlying parts that caused some of that. Hard to say. But yeah, essentially sticking with it. More aero training for a course like that. But other than that, I'm like very happy with most of my strategy and everything like that on there. So not tons of take homes from it. Just I got to keep getting better, especially on the bike where I lose most of my time. So.
But you still podiumed.
Yeah, snuck a 5th place. And when our team came 3rd, we only had 5 guys racing, and we came 3rd tri club, which is crazy.
Everyone did so well. It was so much fun to track.
The boys carrying their weight for once. Usually the ladies just sweep all the podium points for us, and the guys did it without any help.
I know. They got it done without a single female racer.
We're coming, baby. We're coming.
Oh, we're proud of all of you. That's amazing.
Yeah, but I'm very much glad to be done and enjoying some time to just like do what I want and chill and watch you do all of your training, because you have a big race coming up.
I know I do. And I have to say, it's affected me more than I thought to have you off. And while I'm still like in the deep woods of Ironman training. So while you're like relaxing or doing like a 10K run while I'm out doing my 32 plus
golfing or eating wings while you're
drinking beer, and I'm just like, no thank you,
I'm on the trainer doing a heat ride.
The other day I did a heat ride where I had like a hoodie, a winter coat wrapped in a like a Mylar style rain jacket with sweatpants and my hood and a hat. Anyways,
Yeah.
it's been interesting. It's good to have a goal, but I just something that fascinates me is one thing that I wasn't expecting is how much my motivation is tied to what you're doing as well.
Mhm. How do you think I felt when I do the XL Ironman stuff? But you were like still doing probably 80 or 90% of what
Yeah.
I was doing anyways
I
at
was
that
still
point.
with you, like
Yeah.
training.
I just had to do some bonus was all it
Yeah.
was.
Although I'm very fortunate to have training partners for this, which helps a lot.
Yes, massive.
Yeah.
All right. So right now we're 2 weeks out from the race coming up on this weekend. How you had your big volume weeks recently. How did those go for you?
I have never had an Ironman build go so well. And what I mean by that is I normally have greater fluctuations, higher highs and lower lows. But what has been noticeably different this time is it's just become like a series of checking boxes. I'm not doing really any hero efforts. I remember leading into my Ironman Canada. I think that that was the first time that you trained me to that level. And there was some quite dramatic training sessions, like where I was unlocking different levels, but then there was moments where I was also, do you remember I was like in the fetal position on one training session? And there's just been none of that. Like, I think I've been really fortunate where I'm just absorbing everything. And there was one huge weekend where you threw like 6 hour ride with a 1 hour run off of it, and then a big 32 plus run the day after with a swim. And then the Monday morning, all I did was take a day off, and I was like, had so much energy, like just from having a morning off that I was, yeah. So I'm recovering so fast from the training that you're giving me. Um, and it truly has never gone better. So it's motivating to see a lot of green in my training peaks, a lot of just consistent work where I'm hitting my paces. And I mark that up to having training partners that I can do these sessions with. Like all of a sudden, boom, 20 kilometers are passed. Even last weekend, Allison and I did a 32-kilometer run, and we had just finished the workout session of the long run, and we only had 2K to run just to meet you for Starbucks. So, like, yeah, people make the RPE so much lower.
But what are some of those things you're doing outside of training? I think is being the biggest changes for you over the last year or so, which I think
Yeah.
is allowing this to happen. So what have you changed in that?
I think so a lot of things, but I think maybe the number one thing that I've leveled up on is really being aggressive without external stressors.
Without external
So
stresses.
like sorry, I've been very meticulous with removing external stress. So I take an audit of it and I prioritize my training. I'm saying no to things that are not getting me towards my goal. I I don't have FOMO because my goal and training goal is at the top. So I'm putting stress aside. So I think that that's been a huge change. Um, I did this through Ironman Canada, but I think obviously eating enough, um, sleeping like it's my job. I've been doing on top of my strength. I've added additional mobility sessions. So like one thing that I've been pleasantly surprised with, I have that bulging disc issue in my back, and that hasn't flared up at all because I've been really good with some prehab on that piece. Um, and yeah, I just think mentally preparing for my workouts. Um, yeah, I haven't felt the fatigue. It really has been a really great build.
Cool. And Kona's, we've done some different stuff in this build. What has been some of the shocking things that you've felt like you've had to do for this that have been thrown at you?
Um, well, first we'll start with heat training. Like I described what it was like to just like wrap myself in as much heat as I possibly can. I've been adding, so after my really big sessions, I do a really hot bath to keep my core temperature high, and force my body to cool down in a heat situation. And I add Epsom salts to help my body recover. In my heat rides, I have the heater blasting on me while I do it without a fan, obviously. So just pouring sweat and learning to push through. And I think that that has made my other training like the part of my training a lot easier, because then anything that doesn't feel like you're in a heater feels great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a key part on this is we did easy trainer rides with that for a long time, and it was only recently I gave you some more like moderate rides in kind of the heat, not layering up,
Yeah.
but just like non-fan sort of tempo rides, like you're gonna feel like when you're in Kona, like with the hair dryer on, they describe it as. So.
And you know what? It's been fine. Like I think when you're in Ironman training, you sort of put blinders on. You've got this big goal. You know that it's a big chunk of weeks, but I feel like to properly do an Ironman and prepare for it, you need to just be all in. So I say that it's not that hard. The moment that I'm done in the Ironman block, I'm probably going to look back and be like, wow, that was crazy. But it doesn't feel crazy when you're in it, because you just do it and you get up the next day and you do it again. But I think I can't underscore how much eating is almost like the fourth discipline of the of all of this. It feels almost insane at how much food you need to eat to keep up with it. But I think I'm eating even more than I did for Ironman Canada, and that has been a noticeable mark in terms of my energy levels. I find that I've definitely upped my grams of carbs per hour while I'm biking. I probably take 10 grams of carbs more than I used to. So that's crazy in terms of how I feel. And then definitely I'm eating and eating and eating
Yeah,
outside of that.
I think the crazy thing is I see with a lot of athletes is they get injured like in their taper time when they're doing less training and less intensity, and it's often because of that residual like missing out on sleep and nutrition, and that's where it catches up to them as their body's going to absorb all the training they did and it can't anymore. And then they always end up getting like this foot niggle or something like that in the like final 2 weeks. So I have you guys in bubble wrap mode right now, but I also know like you guys are very good at the nutrition and sleep side of things. So
Well, you have to be like, and for me, we hear this over and over with the people that we interview, where they need to put aside, um, because there's moments like even this morning, I was like, oh, I didn't feel like eating at the moment that I was eating. I didn't wake up hungry, but I'm like, I forced a bunch of food down because I'm like, I need to go and do a bike workout, and success matters to me. And I know that I need all this nutrition in order to do that. So it's just, yeah, fueling as an athlete with your goals in mind. And I think it's irresponsible to chase after a goal if you're not willing to do the things to make sure that your body is healthy, because your body can do incredible things. You just have to give it what it needs to perform. And I think that that is where a lot of athletes miss the mark, is underestimating how much energy your body actually needs in order to fuel the work.
well said.
Yeah.
All right. How's your mindset for Kona?
I am feeling a number of different emotions as we're getting closer to it. People are asking. I would say very much so. I have excitement. I'm very excited about Kona. I'm very curious. I've never been to Hawaii. I've heard a lot about the course itself, and I'm excited about the fact that, I mean, it's an honor to be able to race on a course that has so much history. I also am scared. And I think for a number of reasons. One is I respect the Ironman distance. I'm not doing this race just to do it. I am preparing myself to race it. So that is always going to take a great deal of effect on your body. And then, of course, it seems like it's the perfect environment for that heart thing that occasionally happens to me to flare up. So one of the things that I've been doing to address that is I've been working with a number of different cardiologists, and I have recently met with a sports cardiologist who referred me to the top sports cardiologist in Canada. So I saw him this week. So I'll give a full update on the findings there in another episode, but it's been something that I've been mentally prepared for, of if that happens, what that means, and making sure that I stay safe and try to minimize the chances of that happening. So lots and lots of different emotions around Kona, but I think mostly I'm just so excited. And I'm really a little bit of pride. Like, I have worked so hard for this. When I stand on that start line, there will be no doubt in my mind that I did absolutely everything I could to have a successful day there. And I'm already the most proud of that.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing it in action.
I know. And you have a number of athletes there who have all worked their tails off to make sure that they're ready.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting week, and we head there on October 8th. So we're going to be in the mix. And if any of you are going to be there, make sure to shoot us a message, and we'd love to see some of you listeners in person.
Yes, come say hi. We'll be around.
Nice. Yeah. So we have some exciting episodes coming up.
Yes.
Do you want to tease out some of those?
Yeah. So one is obviously we're going to be having a conversation with one of my sports cardiologists. He's not just focused on that. He's an incredible scientist or in the sport. So it'll be great to unpack some of the secrets to unlocking more endurance and some of the cool things that I've learned from him. We are having the incredible Alice Alberts back. We had so much fun the first time that we're asking her back again. And she is going to help give us a Kona preview. She's going to share her predictions. And we're going to talk all things Kona, to prep for that. What other ones do you have in store?
We're supposed to have, I can't tease any more of them out at this point. We gotta end there. Well,
okay. We have a lot of, like, also we're recording a lot today. We're getting a lot of things done. We also might record in Kona as well. So looking forward to that. So lots of cool things ahead. But we'll wrap it for now. Truthfully, we have some other podcasts to record to tee up for you. So thank you for listening. It's been a pleasure, and happy training. We'll see you next week. Wow. How great was that? I always learn so much from these endurance icons. If you enjoyed the podcast as well, please consider liking us across social media, subscribing to us on YouTube, or giving us a 5-star rating on wherever you listen to your podcasts. We appreciate you and your support so much. We wish you happy training, and we'll see you back next week.